Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 158 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
Here's what we're going to be talking about in today's show. In our Noteworthy segment, we're taking a look at how prisons and incarcerated people are being used in America's food system.
And our main topic is a movie review. We're taking a look at the documentary film, They're Trying to Kill Us.
But before we get into all of that, here is what we have been up to. I know you're dying to know. First of all, one of us had a birthday.
Yes, one of us did.
And that one of us was Sam.
It was. It was me.
Sam had a birthday, and I don't think she'll mind me telling you that she's 50.
No, I don't mind at all.
50 years old.
I am indeed 50.
And she can kick and stretch and kick because she's 50.
That's right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what did we do on your birthday?
Well, on my birthday, we headed up to Buffalo, and first we had dinner at Strong Hearts.
Always a winner.
Always a winner.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had their Wild West burger.
Yeah, we went with burgers this time. I've never actually had a burger at Strong Hearts. I always go for one of their other sandwiches.
Right. I'd had one burger before.
Yeah, you had like a...
Well, it was this ridiculous and incredibly good concoction of both a burger and chicken fingers on a sandwich.
Right.
And I just had to try that. And it was a genius combination that I never would have thought of.
Yeah.
But for this one, I did the Wild West burger, which was absolutely lovely. It had some French fried onions on it, a beautiful barbecue sauce. It had some jalapeno going on there. Of course, some greens and some tomato. It was really, really fabulous.
I went with the pizza burger.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know why. It just popped out off the menu at me, and it just sounded really good. So it's their house-made seitan pepperoni, vegan mozzarella cheese, and this really great marinara.
Which you dropped on your pants.
I did. I did get a little bit of marinara on myself, but hey, it was worth it.
Oh, definitely.
It was totally worth it. It was really good. It was a really good burger. And of course, their fries, we both had sides of fries. Their fries are always spectacular.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And then for dessert, we decided that we would share a piece of cheesecake because they had peanut butter and jelly cheesecake.
That was kind of spectacular.
Yeah. So I think I've maybe only had cheesecake once before since we've gone vegan.
Yeah.
It's not a regular thing.
Well, right.
We got one of those Daya cheesecakes once.
Oh, yeah. And those are just okay.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
You know, they're fine.
They're not bad.
This cheesecake was brilliant.
It was so good. You'd never know it was a vegan cheesecake.
No.
It was creamy and cheesecakey. I mean, it was a cheesecake.
Yes. And the peanut butter flavor, because if you get into anything that is peanut butter and jelly, the peanut butter should be the lead-off hitter.
Oh, yeah. Peanut butter should be the star.
Yes,
definitely.
absolutely. And it was. And it was very clear that they were using a natural peanut butter, not a hyper sugary peanut butter like Jif or Skippy or Peter Pan or something like that.
I don't know what they used, but it was good.
It was very, very good. And it had a nice, fresh strawberry jam with it. It was absolutely glorious.
It was really good. We split a piece and it was perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolute perfection.
It wasn't heavy at all.
Nope.
Really good. It had a nice graham cracker crust. Mm-hmm. It was delicious.
Yep.
Can't say enough about it.
No, me either. It was really amazing. So I highly recommend that the next time you hit Strong Hearts, you give their cheesecake a try because this really was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
And we also, of course, took a couple of cupcakes home, which...
We kind of have to. We can't ever leave Strong Hearts without bringing cupcakes home.
No. So, and we had those on Saturday as a mid-afternoon snack.
Yes.
And mine was a lemon poppy seed cupcake, which was absolutely divine. The cake was perfectly textured, a nice punch you in your face lemon flavor going on. The buttercream was creamy and sweet, but not overly sweet. It was perfect.
Yeah, their cupcakes are fantastic. My cupcake was a banana chocolate peanut butter.
Yes.
So it was basically like a banana bread cupcake
Okay.
with a peanut butter buttercream, and then a drizzle of chocolate on top.
Ooh.
It was really good. And again, also not super sweet. Mm-hmm. It was really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And they topped it with a little dehydrated banana chip on top, which was a nice touch.
Nice touch.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it was really good.
So we had a fantastic meal at Strong Hearts, per usual. Mm-hmm. And then we headed across town to Irish Classical Theater Company.
Yeah, if you've never been to Buffalo, Buffalo has a really great theater district if you're into theater.
They do. I mean, many, many theaters all kind of clustered together in one place. It's really fantastic. And so we were at Irish Classical and we saw Dracula, a comedy of terrors.
This show was hilarious.
So funny.
Hilarious. The actors all played 2 and 3 different roles. Mm-hmm. They were fabulous. Every role had a different accent. The accents were spot on. And they were just hilarious.
Yeah, it was. It was tremendously funny. The reason that we went to see this show in particular was because a friend and colleague of mine, Dan Lenzian, was one of the actors. And 2 of my other colleagues, Jessica Hillman-McCord and Steve Vaughn, worked on the production in varying ways. Yeah. And so I definitely wanted to see what was going on. I have done a little bit of work with Irish Classical in the past. And so I know the theater. I absolutely love it.
It's a great little theater. It's in the round, and the seating is fantastic. You have all kinds of leg room.
Yes,
and there's not a bad seat in the house.
No, there really isn't,
because it's in the round, and the actors did a fantastic job of playing to every side of the audience.
Yeah,
and this play, you got to think like Rocky Horror meets Clue
meets Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, if you took Clue, combined it with Rocky Horror, and set it in Victorian London,
right,
that's kind of what you get.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely hysterical. Just a completely farcical rendering of the tale of Dracula. So taking the traditional Bram Stoker story and just turning it on its head.
Yeah, it was like a nonstop laugh fest.
It really was.
Yeah, I think we laughed through the entire show.
I think that's accurate. Yes. Yeah. It was just marvelous. Yeah. And the show is running for one more weekend. So if you are in the Buffalo area and you're looking for some really great theater, head over to Irish Classical Theater Company.
Yeah.
And check out Dracula, Comedy of Terrors.
Yeah, if you're looking for some fun kind of spooky season activity, is definitely right up there.
Yes.
Yeah. We had a bad thing happen, though. I don't even remember what day it was.
I think it was Thursday.
It was Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I woke up and, I don't know, it was like 5:30, 6 in the morning, something like that. And I make my way out to the kitchen to make my coffee, and I'm pitter-pattering across the kitchen floor, only to realize I am pitter-pattering in a large puddle of water. I'm like, uh-oh, where is all this water coming from?
Well, but she was nowhere near that calm about it.
No, of course not. Who would be? I'm like, oh my God. So I ascertained that it's coming from the back of our refrigerator.
Yes.
I'm moving the refrigerator out by myself going, help, I need help.
But she was kind of like, it was help, I need help, but in her like semi-screaming panic voice. And I wasn't really out of bed yet. And so I'm hearing this and I'm like, oh my God, there is something really, really awful happening. Like, there's like a cat died or something. And so I run into the kitchen and I see this pool of water on the floor and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a problem.
It was bad. I mean, it leaked down into our semi-finished basement, and
it did.
Yeah, it was quite a panic moment. Anyway, we got it all cleaned up.
We did.
A guy's coming to fix the refrigerator this week, and that'll be that.
Yeah, and it was just fine. But I think probably
once I found the shutoff, it was just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Christine is panicking, trying to find the shutoff, and I'm trying to, be the practical one and just like deal with the puddle of water.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Christine finds the shutoff and she comes up the basement stairs and she starts trying to get rid of the water that is on the kitchen floor just with a mop.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at her
It was
like,
doing no good.
this is not going to work. And I'm like, we need towels.
Yeah.
And
lots of them.
I got bunches of towels and I put them on the floor and I sopped up all the water.
Yeah.
And Christine was like, oh, that worked.
That worked. That worked much better.
Yes. So, yes. So, we've had no ice maker for a few days, but honestly, talk about first world problems. So not an issue.
And my nephew texted that he said they have plenty of ice if I wanted to borrow some. They're like over an hour away. I'm like, I think we'll be all right.
We'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I think he was being funny, but
yeah. So Wednesday we've got somebody out coming to fix the water line to the fridge.
Yeah.
And all will be well. A rude awakening.
It was a terribly rude awakening. And unfortunately, it's not just like the line that feeds water to the fridge, because I initially called our plumber, and the boy who works for our plumber, who's been here before for other things, took one look at what was going on. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't do that because it's something actually with the refrigerator and not the supply line. So anyway, so that was exciting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was definitely exciting.
Yeah. You know what else is exciting?
What's that?
We have a recipe this week.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And the recipe this week is another from our vegan kitchen. It is my Thai Peanut Soba Bowl that I made a couple of days ago.
I just love a good soba bowl.
Yeah. We hadn't had a soba bowl in forever.
We hadn't, which was a little strange because we went through a period, I want to say a couple years ago, where we were eating soba bowls like crazy.
At least once a week.
Yeah, like just absolutely nuts about soba noodles and veg and tofu. And so it was a real treat to have this Thai peanut soba bowl that Christine made. It was really awesome.
I'm glad it was a treat. Yeah, and I'll have the recipe up for our patron community later this week. It's basically you make this spicy Thai peanut sauce. You make soba noodles. You add the vegetables of your choice. I did roasted Brussels sprouts. I did a steamed broccoli. And then we add cold veg on top. So I did...
Essential.
So I did sliced radish, and I did some carrots, which I grated. And what else? Edamame.
Edamame.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was. Yeah. It was absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
The one thing that you didn't put on it?
What?
Cucumbers.
Why didn't I put cucumbers?
I don't know, but you didn't.
Were we out of cucumbers?
No, we were not. We were never out of cucumbers.
Well, that'll definitely be in the recipe. Add cucumber.
Yes,
especially
absolutely.
If you want Sam to be happy.
I wasn't unhappy without the cucumber. I'm just saying. I didn't even really notice that you hadn't added cucumber until I had lunch the next day because I took the leftovers.
Oh, right. And you're like, wait,
for lunch on Tuesday. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's no cucumber in with the raw veg. I'm like, there wasn't raw cucumber last night. How did this happen?
This is an outrage. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all good.
So yeah, like I said, we'll make that recipe available for our patrons on our patron community. If you'd like all of the recipes from our vegan kitchen series, you can become a patron at any level and gain access to all of those recipes. And they're all good. They're all tried and true from our kitchen recipes that I've been making for a long time. So there you go.
Cool.
There's always a link in the show notes if you want to do that. I don't like asking people for money, but if you want to join our Patreon, there's always a link in our show notes. So let's just jump into our Noteworthy section. We got a lot to talk about, and it's some serious stuff. So in our Noteworthy section, we're going to be talking about the role of prisons and incarcerated people in those prisons in our food system.
This article is coming from the Bittman Project, and that's bittmanproject.com, and the article was written by Joey Ayala and published on May 9th. Coercive prison labor programs, otherwise known as modern slavery, Food as punishment and the companies who really benefit from it all. The phrase, a well-deserved meal, isn't just a platitude. It is an acknowledgement of the relationship between work and reward. The irony of our American food culture, though, is that many of the people most deserving of a good meal are the least likely to get it. Perhaps the clearest example of this fact is the forced labor programs in our prisons, many of which involve agriculture. Prisons run labor programs throughout the country. Some of these are mandatory with no payment to the prisoner at all, and those that do pay may offer between 10 cents and 60 cents an hour. In those programs involving agriculture, prisoners can be forced to raise cattle, keep bees, grow produce, and maintain grounds on prison-owned farms, or they can be leased out to farms owned by private companies. The harvest is then sold and shipped off to some of the country's largest food distributors. The saddest part of this story is that prisons then provide inmates with highly processed and often terrible and, of course, unhealthy food produced specifically for use in prisons. Prison labor programs have their roots in Reconstruction and the 13th Amendment. Most of us think of this amendment as the one that abolished slavery, and it did do that, but with a caveat. It read, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction." So the amendment was expertly written to maintain aspects of our political and economic systems specifically designed to meet America's need for cheap or free agricultural labor. The amendment effectively made the individual ownership of slaves illegal, but it also offered companies and wealthy farm owners the option to contractually lease convict labor and pay the prisons directly, spending far less than they would have to if using non-incarcerated workers. The opportunity to reintroduce recently freed people to the plantation, the railroad line, and the chain gang was too savory an option to pass up. But to take full advantage of it, you had to have a vast number of prisoners. In order to justify the amount of incarceration that America's blossoming and labor-intensive industries demanded, the nation was willing to dramatically broaden its already loose definition of criminality. Loitering, trespassing, looking white women in the eye, and talking back all became grounds for incarceration. Just as individual people can become institutionalized after a long stint behind the wall, America has conformed ideologically and economically to the existence of the prison industrial complex. Criminal deservedness, the idea that those who do something that we define as wrong deserve their punishment, has become an economic driver that allows America to overlook our dependence on prisons. While the definitive numbers on prison labor in agriculture have been largely mysterious, we've recently learned more about which states, brands, and producers benefit most from this phenomenon. In order to grasp how integrated prison agriculture is within our food system, we have to take a step back and understand the network of incarceration centers across the country. Between state and federal prisons, local jails, immigration and juvenile detention centers, and tribal land and military jails, there are currently over 1.9 million people incarcerated in the United States. Not only is there a complicated legal system with its roots in racial capitalism that drives mass incarceration, there is also a mix of incentives within the prison network that promote various versions of convict leasing, agriculture labor programs, and coercive labor practices. Among the vast network of institutions within our carceral system, at least 662 adult detention facilities have active agricultural labor programs. Prison agriculture has been an historically lucrative industry across the South, and that remains to be the case, as Texas, Georgia, and Florida have the most prisons with agricultural labor attached to the institution. However, the rest of the country isn't without blame. Every single prison in Colorado, Iowa, Montana, North Dakota, Oregon, and Washington has incarcerated people working in agriculture. Still, there is little research around exactly how many people are laboring within the prison agricultural system. Some states have reported loose numbers in unofficial statements, like the Colorado Correctional Industries claiming to have had at least 800 incarcerated people working in their agriculture labor programs. While it's nearly impossible to get a grasp on the nature of the labor for each person in each labor program in each state, we can still get a solid understanding of the way prisons justify their labor programs. Work requirements, vocational training, and community service as a mandatory condition of sentencing are the reported leading drivers for agriculture labor programs in the South, Northeast or West, and Midwest, respectively. Whatever the justification for each of these programs, the bald fact is that prison labor generates over $2 billion in goods and $9 billion in services every year. Only a portion of this revenue is made from agriculture, but it is worth highlighting a few key points about prison agriculture labor and revenue. Between 2018 and 2024, about a dozen prisons that run cattle raising programs generated over $60 million. In 2020, during the height of the COVID epidemic, it was reported that over 100 imprisoned women were moved from their prisons directly onto a warehouse owned by Hickman's Family Farm, with whom the prison held a labor contract to work directly on site. This contract is estimated to be worth just under $6 million a year. A comprehensive analysis done by the Associated Press reports that they traced over $200 million in agricultural sales directly linked to prison labor within the last 6 years. Granted, these numbers don't paint the full picture. It's just what can be traced definitively. To offer a more tangible perspective on how interconnected our food is with prison labor, consider the fact that imprisoned people in Alabama are leased out to work for Tyson Foods, Hillshire Farms, Jimmy Dean, Sara Lee, and meat production companies that service McDonald's, and that many of the food brands for which imprisoned people supply goods end up in Target, Whole Foods, Aldi, and Costco. Several of these corporations have made commitments to avoiding foods made by prison labor, but recent research points to the possibility that they did not follow through. For all the money generated from prison agricultural labor, accounted for and otherwise, the people laboring get next to nothing. Among all paying jobs within prisons and as extensions of labor contracts, the average prisoner can expect to make under 50 cents an hour. There are many states that do not pay for prison labor that exists within the walls of the prison, such as kitchen work. Whether or not the prisons pay for labor at all largely depends on administrative loopholes within varying pipelines from prisons to the workforce. In addition to being poorly paid, if at all, prisoners are also poorly fed. Only about 20 states actually use food grown by inmates in prison kitchens. In 2020, Impact Justice ran a study asking inmates about their access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Over 62% of inmates surveyed say they rarely, if ever, have access to fresh vegetables, and 54% said the same about fresh fruits. In terms of general well-being, imprisoned people are 6 times more likely to suffer from foodborne illness, as well as being significantly more susceptible to diabetes and heart disease when compared to the rest of the American public. Food is also used as punishment in the carceral system. Withholding meals is an age-old practice for breaking the minds of prisoners and is still a method for increasing conformity amongst imprisoned people. While certain states prohibit withholding food from inmates, at least 36 states require or allow alternative meals as a form of punishment. The meal replacement Nutriloaf hit headlines around 2010 as activists considered it unethical to deprive inmates of enjoyable food and purposefully make them eat something that is virtually inedible for humans. Nutriloaf has been reported to include a variety of kitchen scraps blended together and baked into a lasagna-type patty, and is often served in a paper bag with no condiments or seasonings. The ingredient list has included, but is certainly not limited to, spoiled vegetables, ground chicken, flour, oatmeal, and margarine. Aside from Nutriloaf, the ACLU reported that prisoners were deliberately given broth and rotting sandwiches as punishment meals. The issue of the American prison food system is the issue of the global food system. We have collectively allowed food to be taken out of the hands of people and to be used for economic and political leverage across the globe. Our American food system is set against a backdrop of a social hierarchy in which poor people, immigrants, and imprisoned people take up much of the space at the bottom. Perceiving prison conditions as separate from the larger condition of a country ignores the actual function of the governing system. Food should be food. Food should be nutritious. Nutritious food should be accessible. The people who labor in the food system should benefit from their labor, and overall, food should definitely not be a punishment. These are not lofty ambitions for a perfect future, but intrinsic truths to a well-functioning food system. Our lives as free citizens are currently made easier and cheaper by prison labor, and imprisoned people's lives are made to be more difficult and unjust by our food supply chains. If our intention is to be more conscious and connected to our food, we have to address where and how it is sourced.
Absolutely, we have to address where and how it is sourced. And the gist of this article is this is legalized slavery.
Yes, it is.
Not only the food system, but other systems are utilizing prisoners as workers and paying them either nothing or next to nothing.
Yes.
And like this article says, they never reap the benefits of their work.
No, because they're treated as subhuman, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are treated like livestock.
Yes.
Yeah, and the founding fathers of this nation and the people who worked on the 13th Amendment, who I know were not the founding fathers,
no,
had this in mind when they put that caveat in the 13th Amendment to utilize imprisoned people.
That's right. It is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a coincidence that the supposedly most successful capitalist country in the world also imprisons more people than any other country in the world.
Yes, and this also is a reason, along with government subsidies, taxpayer subsidies, it's one of the reasons why the foods that harm us the most and the foods that harm animals the most are as affordable as they are.
Yes.
It is because subsidies, and it is because of this slave labor that you can buy a hamburger at McDonald's for whatever a hamburger at McDonald's is.
Right.
It's much less than if you went to Stronghearts and got a hamburger, okay?
Well, it's not that much. Well, okay, yes. The difference between McDonald's and Stronghearts, yeah, okay, I can go there.
Yeah. So sometimes people are like, vegan food, especially when you eat out, can be expensive. Well, these are the reasons. Because the foods they're serving you are not subsidized by your tax dollars, and they're not being produced and raised by slave labor.
Right.
So therefore, their products cost more.
Yes. And interestingly, I think that this topic fits perfectly with our main topic, which is taking a look at the documentary They're Trying to Kill Us, because this was an issue that was actually raised in that documentary,
Yes.
that not only in the agricultural system, but also in garment industries in particular, and garment industries that are dedicated to creating clothing for the military and the police.
Yeah, and the prison guards.
And prison guards.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are essentially making uniforms for the very people who are incarcerating them.
Yeah. And it's also raises all the questions around laws like, well, let's say like drug laws.
Yeah.
Why marijuana was still a Schedule 1 or whatever the schedule is of drugs.
It was a Schedule 1 narcotic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that they could arrest and imprison more people.
Yes.
To fuel this legalized slavery industry.
That's right. Or why are the mandatory minimums when it comes to sentencing?
Yeah.
Why are the mandatory minimums for something like crack so much higher than those for powder cocaine?
When it's essentially the same drug.
It is essentially the same drug.
Except it's a white people drug.
That's right. And by far, the majority of drug users are white. By far, the majority of powder cocaine users are white.
Right.
The majority of crack users are black.
Right.
That's the reason right there.
Oh, yeah. It's racism, pure and simple.
Without question.
Yeah.
It is one of the many, many forms of institutionalized racism that we unfortunately are still dealing with in this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And laws like the 3 strikes law, there's just, we could go on and on about the institutional racism of our judicial system, but it does tie in to our main topic this week. So maybe we should just jump into our main topic. And Sam said earlier, our main topic this week is a movie review. We are reviewing the documentary film, They're Trying to Kill Us.
So this is the neighborhood I grew up in, right in Ferguson. A friend of mine was actually shot in his driveway right there.
You put drugs in the communities, put guns in the communities, put disease in the communities, put poor food in the communities. All these things are designed to shorten your life expectancy.
It's by design. It is not accidental that this is what's in the hood and this is what's over there.
There's actually an active hand in making sure that we living like this.
It's all about control, money, and survival to them.
Your death is not an expense to them. It's an expense to you.
They're trying to make money from us, even if it's at the expense of killing us. You just die slow. Your family just watches you die.
The alcohol industry, fast food industries, tobacco industries target communities of color.
Your health is not their main priority. They're trying to keep you sick.
We are in a state of emergency when it comes to our health.
Keeping people sick is very lucrative.
Now you want pills. Now you want dialysis. Now you want medicine. You go into the hospital on a regular to see your doctor. Everybody's getting paid except you.
Big pharma and pharmaceutical companies are making billions of dollars off of all of us.
As long as they can make that dollar, they don't care if you live or die.
It's something about being here that's making black people sick.
Everybody's getting paid except you. You hurt me.
There are more dangerous and harmful chemicals and products made for women of color.
It absolutely is a crisis.
They don't make a dime if you're healthy.
It's kind of like the dope game. It is the dope game. It's just a bigger gangster, the mob boss.
You look at the hidden hand, you see that government is feeding the crisis.
We're fed wrong knowledge, society over wrong food.
It's about money over people's health.
If you can control a population's access to food, you can control the person.
Only about 8% of African Americans even live in communities that have a grocery store in them.
Because the deep root problem is the food.
Because poor diets kill more brothers than pistols. You know, we fighting for our lives. It's like Michael Vick's Pickles.
As black men, we're dying off so quickly in so many ways.
It's here, targeted in our communities.
They don't want a healthy population.
That is injustice, plain and simple.
The powers that be that are making that money at the top, they trying to kill us.
Yes. Now, before we get into the review, I do want to go back for just a second because we were talking about the difference in price between a burger that you get at McDonald's and a burger that you get at Stronghearts.
Sure.
Yeah. And I didn't quite finish the thought.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Per the statistics that were brought up in They're Trying to Kill Us, that burger that you get for $4 at McDonald's would actually cost about $11 if the food manufacturers, and by that we mean the CAFOs,
right,
and the dairy farms, were not subsidized.
We're not subsidized, and we're not filling positions with prisoners.
That's right. So the cost of those foods would almost triple.
So this documentary is not a new film. I've been meaning to watch this film for a while now. I think it came out in 2021.
It did, November 24th, 2021.
Yeah. It is from executive producers and 7-time NBA All-Star Chris Paul and 7-time Grammy winner Billie Eilish. The film features notable influencers from the fields of hip-hop, medicine, sports, entertainment, policy, and politics, weighing in on the singular, most deadly threat to American society that mainstream media doesn't want to talk about.
Yes. This is basically the follow-up feature-length documentary to the award-winning film What the Health, which was in fact the movie that prompted us to go vegan. It focuses on food injustice told through the lens of hip-hop and urban culture. It was co-directed by Keegan Kuhn, who was also a co-director on Cowspiracy and What the Health, and John Lewis, who is known for his direction of Badass Vegan and Vegan Smart.
Yeah.
The film follows co-director John Lewis on a journey crisscrossing the country, seeking answers to why Americans of color suffer and die from disproportionately higher rates of chronic disease than their European American counterparts. The film explores the intersections of diet, disease, poverty, institutionalized racism, and unravels a web of interconnected industries, keeping the global majority sick.
Yeah, so that's the description of the film. I will say, as the film starts, they do focus initially on the fact that there is gun violence, that there is gang violence, that there is drug problems, and as well as many other problems that are plaguing lower income communities of color. Mm-hmm. And the first fact that made Sam really mad was the fact that there are more gun stores than grocery stores in these communities of color.
Not just in communities of color, but in the United States.
Yes.
There are more than 15,000 more locations at which you can purchase a firearm.
Yeah.
Than locations at which you can purchase fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
This is insanity. Why do we have a gun problem in this country?
Right.
This just absolutely mystified me.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought the film did really, really well is starting from that place of gun violence, of police brutality, of drug issues, all of which plague low-income communities of color in particular, then segued to, hey, wait a second. There's this other thing that is actually far worse, that kills far more people than guns or drugs or the police, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, and that's how they segued into the food desert situation, mm-hmm. And they showed this map of where these neighborhoods were in this specific location, right? And they showed where there were no grocery stores, but then they superimposed all the gun shops onto the map.
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty eye-opening.
And
right?
then on top of that, they superimposed the communities that were largely black communities.
Right.
That the absence of grocery stores, the presence of gun shops, liquor stores,
bail bonds. Bail bonds or check cashing places.
Yes. Yeah, that all of these things were either absent or clustered in the same places, and that those places were predominantly communities of color. Just seeing the visual was astounding.
Yeah. And if you've ever been through some of these communities, I know I've been in a community similar to what they were showing in Chicago, and they're literally liquor shacks on every corner in this community. Gun shops, just like they showed. No grocery stores whatsoever. No fresh food anywhere. You did occasionally see a corner bodega, but they sell nothing but junk. Right. It's just junk food and alcohol. That's all. That's the only thing that you can buy, within like a 3-mile radius of your own neighborhood.
Yeah. So if that isn't bad enough, which it most certainly is. Yeah. It's beyond bad. But then, so let's say someone has the wherewithal and the resources to take public transportation to a different neighborhood that has a good grocery store. Buses in some areas actually limit the number of grocery bags that you can carry with you.
Yeah, and this one location, it was 2 bags. They had a 2 grocery bag limit. Now, I don't know if you've been grocery shopping recently, but 2 bags is maybe enough groceries. And if you have a family, forget about it. It's enough groceries for a couple days.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so how is someone who is perhaps on the lower end of the income spectrum, who does not have personal transportation, who has to rely on public transportation, fit the time into their schedule every couple of days to go to the grocery store, which is not in their neighborhood, buy only 2 bags of groceries, to come home and feed their family?
Yeah.
This is not a livable situation.
Then there is the fast food industry. And here's where things got really interesting for me, that they were interviewing this one woman, but she was saying the problem is not that there's not money in these areas. Obviously, there's enough money to support a McDonald's, a Popeye's Chicken, a Wendy's, a Burger King, a Taco Bell,
a KFC.
So there's obviously money being spent in these neighborhoods. So it's not a case of, oh, well, grocery stores don't put stores in these neighborhoods because nobody has the money to buy groceries.
Right.
Obviously, that's not the case, right? No. Because they're managing to hold up all these other businesses in their neighborhoods.
That's right.
They're keeping them all in business because that is their only option, food source-wise.
That's right.
To get cheap and quick food.
Yes.
That is essentially killing them.
Yes. And the idea was put forward, and I absolutely loved that this was said very clearly and very directly. Do you think the food companies that are doing this don't know that their food is bad for people?
Right.
Do you think they're not aware of this?
They're completely aware.
Of course they're aware of it. Yeah. Also, the film revealed the fact, and this was not entirely surprising, but I did appreciate seeing it very directly, was that all of these fast food industries, their CEOs are also connected to big pharma. Yeah. They're also connected to government agencies like the FDA.
Absolutely.
And they're also incredibly white.
Yeah, they're all being run by white people. And like Sam said, a lot of their CEOs came from the pharmaceutical industry. So these industries are feeding each other.
They certainly are.
Make them sick, sell them drugs. Make them sick, sell them drugs.
Yep.
Before we get any further into the food situation, I just wanted to read off a few facts that you can get at the they'rekillingus.com website. Close to 500 black and brown people in the U.S. are killed by police every year, and most of them are youth. Black Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be murdered by police than white Americans. Black youth are 14 times more likely to die from guns than white children of the same age.
Across all ages, Black Americans are 504% more likely to die by homicide than white Americans. Over 15,000 people are murdered in the U.S. every year. Over 70,000 people die from drug overdoses every year in the United States. The government has knowingly allowed drugs to be dropped in low-income communities.
Let that one sink in. We're talking about the crack epidemic. Mm-hmm. We're talking about methamphetamine epidemic. These are drugs that are dropped into these communities purposefully.
Yes.
To bring them down. The leading cause of death for African Americans are heart disease at 23.3%, cancer at 20.8%, stroke at 5.7%, and diabetes at 4.4%.
Almost half of all African Americans have some form of cardiovascular disease at 47%.
Nearly 1 in 5 African Americans have diabetes.
Most of the heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure, and even much of the autoimmune problems that we see are a direct outgrowth of the way people eat.
Nearly half of all deaths from heart disease, stroke, and diabetes are directly attributable to a poor diet.
Many of the chronic diet-related diseases that used to be associated with older people are now manifesting in millennials.
There was a study published in 2017 that showed that a poor diet was a diet that was high in processed meats, a diet that was high in sodium, and a diet that was high in sugar-sweetened beverages. Just eating those foods is responsible for half of the deaths from heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And in this study, what emerged was that there were racial and ethnic disparities there, because among Blacks and among Latinos, their percentage of deaths was even higher as it relates to poor diet.
Johns Hopkins compared 2 different communities in Baltimore. One community was an affluent white community, and the other was a low-income Black community. What they found was that there was a 20-year life expectancy difference. The main thing that they were able to pinpoint was that there was a huge difference in what they were eating.
Not only are there fewer grocery stores in these communities, but some chains are actually preventing new grocery stores from opening up even after they've left a neighborhood through the use of restrictive clauses in long-term leases. Now, this goes on and on with facts. So, not a bad idea to go to the They're Trying to Kill Us website and read on, but I want to stop there and talk a little bit about that. I do know that those clauses exist not only in the places that they were talking about in the movie, but also exist in the town that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And there used to be a small grocery store on the east side in Erie, Pennsylvania. I think it was a Quality Market, and then it turned into a Tops Market, and they closed it. They didn't go out of business. There's Tops Markets everywhere in Erie.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah, but this is a lower income area, and the reason why another grocery store didn't go in there is because they have one of these clauses that a grocery store cannot be in that space for, I don't know, it's something like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And there is no grocery store anywhere near this community. The closest place where they can buy fresh food is a super Walmart, which is, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 miles further east from this community.
By bus.
Yeah. And it's just insane.
But what do you see? You see loads of liquor stores.
There's a liquor store right next to this store.
Of convenience stores. You see Dollar Generals everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see plenty of stores where food can be purchased, but it's only highly processed.
Right.
Incredibly unhealthy food. The access to fresh fruits and vegetables, the access to whole grains, the access to healthy varieties of legumes and nuts and seeds without being hyper-processed is just next to zero.
It's zero. Yeah, it's zero. So like Sam was saying, this film did a really great job of segueing from the police violence, the gun violence, the drug problems into the roots of a lot of problems in these communities, the fact that they cannot get good food.
Yes.
And it continued on this really great path just releasing the information in little bits about this and little bits about that. And until we are now talking about factory farming. After talking about the health consequences of this inability to have access to healthy food, then they start talking about factory farming. They talked about soul food and where soul food comes from, the origins of soul food.
This was incredible to me. Yeah. I loved this story. It was really, really eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense, but it was kind of like oh my God, why didn't I think of that before?
Yeah.
Of course. That in the unfortunate period of our history where Africans were essentially kidnapped from West Africa and brought to the United States, even before it was the United States and the rest of the Western Hemisphere as slaves, that incarceration as slaves, it wasn't just about the work that was being done. It wasn't just about the fact that they were doing hard labor with no pay.
Yeah, essentially slave camps.
Yes.
Work camps.
They were also subjugated through the food that they were fed.
Again, not being able to benefit
from their labor.
From the fruits of their labor, literally.
Right. So a lot of the dishes that are now held in kind of a almost reverential place in communities of color are actually slavery foods.
Exactly.
They are not the traditional foods of West Africa.
No.
West Africans who eat a traditional diet, we are talking about whole foods. We are talking about whole grains, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, very little, if any, meat.
Yeah, and
no dairy.
No dairy, yeah.
And so those who were enslaved in the southern United States, they were fed the leavings of the master's table. They were fed the pig feet. They were fed the entrails, which then became chitlins. They were fed all of the things that wouldn't be served to the white folks in the big house.
Yeah, and somebody in the film actually made the, put it together and said, that's why you hear when people are rich that they're eating high on the hog.
Yeah.
Because we ate low on the hog. We ate pig's feet. We ate chitlins, which is basically entrails.
Yes.
And all of the scraps that the masters would throw away and throw to them to cook.
Yes. And so that was just a phenomenally eye-opening story for me. And it's almost like one of those many connections that just should have been obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I have read about that, about, the history of soul food. I've read about the history of soul food. But I've never heard an actual person of color. I've never heard a black person call it slave food.
Yeah.
And they were calling it slave food.
Yes.
That this isn't our culture.
Right.
This is something that was forced on us.
Yes.
And we shouldn't be embracing it the way we do, because not only is it slave food, but it's killing us.
Yes. Exactly. And then, of course, when we get past that, we get into the placement of our modern day CAFOs, our contained animal feeding operations.
Right. And we talked about this after we did a review on The Smell of Money, and they did actually include some of the same people.
Yes, they did.
From that film. Some of the same unfortunate people that had to live in the shadow of these pig farms.
Yes. Yes. So again, we're looking at folks living in Duplin County, North Carolina.
Yeah.
All of eastern North Carolina is essentially a pig farm, a giant pig farm.
Yeah.
And so going into the environmental effects of not only the CAFOs themselves, but the lagoons of manure and ammonia and urine and all of these things that are then sprayed on fields. And the fact that they had folks come in and cotton swab every surface in every home within 3 miles of the CAFO, and every single surface had pig feces on it.
Their homes,
detectable pig feces.
Yeah, their homes basically inside and out have this layer of pig feces that you can't, no matter how much you clean, it's not going away.
No.
Because these CAFOs are spraying fields, within range of where they live. And the environmental racism involved in the pig industry is absurd.
Yes, it is. And of course, and it's not just pigs, it's chickens and it's cows and it's all of it.
It's animal agriculture in general.
Yes, but the fact that these CAFOs are disproportionately placed near communities of color. Yeah. Again, it's not an accident.
Not at all. No. It's intentional. It's completely intentional. So then they go from talking about the effects of animal agriculture on the communities to what can they do about it?
Yes.
How can they change this generational issue, especially the generational health problems that plague people of color? And of course, we saw a lot of the same talking heads that we see in a lot of these films.
Of course. Yes, a lot of our favorite plant-based physicians. Yeah. You know, we had Milton Mills and we had Michael Greger and we had Neil Barnard and, it was just, we had Ruby Latham and, we had
it was the
everybody.
Usual cast of, the usual suspects.
But you know what? They're such a delightful cast of characters. I don't mind them being the usual suspects.
They had things to say in this film that I haven't heard them say, especially Dr. Mills. I've heard him speak many times on the subject of the food in communities of color. And he had a lot of really great things to say, as did a lot of the other experts. But so then they started talking about, what happens to these communities when they change up their diet, when they break that generational cycle.
Yeah.
And the film then took a more positive turn, which is always nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I really did appreciate the fact that this film ended on kind of a positive note, saying, we have all of these problems. And yes, the deck is stacked against us. But guess what? If we as individuals and communities take charge of our own destinies, if we figure out what we can do as individuals, as communities, then we can take back control of our health, of our community's well-being, of our lifespans. I found that really, really heartening.
Yeah, it was. And I loved how they tackled the issue that all vegans, black, white, whatever your race, have to deal with, is the traditions that we hold behind food.
Right.
And how the tradition isn't the food itself.
Right.
You might think the tradition is the food, but the tradition is the family. The tradition is getting together. The tradition is cooking together. The tradition is talking over a meal. And once you can get past the fact that the tradition is not the food itself.
Right.
But the act around it.
Yes, the process.
Yeah.
Is the tradition. And I actually thought the idea of tradition was dealt with very, very well, kind of early in the film. The idea that so many of the foods that communities of color might think of as traditional are actually unhealthy, compared it to being in Alabama and seeing what the speaker called a good old boy, with his Confederate flag.
Right.
And saying, well, that's his tradition. That has been passed down through his family.
Right.
This Confederate flag, this hatred of those that are other than you, has been passed down. That's their tradition. And guess what? It's a really unhealthy tradition.
Yeah, it was a really good comparison.
It was a fantastic analogy. Yeah. I really, really appreciated that.
Just because it's tradition doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Not by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. So yeah, we were, I think, both thankful that this film ended on a positive note. I think the film went from not being a film about veganism to being a film about veganism.
Very much so.
In a really smooth manner. I think that this is a great film to share with people in your family that aren't vegan.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might open some eyes. And I love the way that it gently guides you through all of these other social justice issues.
Yes.
To veganism.
Yeah. I have to say, of all of the vegan forward documentaries that we've seen, and we've seen a lot of them, this is probably the most comprehensive.
Yeah, it's got a little of everything.
Yes. So yes, we talk about the environmental issues. Yes, we talk about social justice issues. Yes, they talk about health issues. You know, they talk about the prison industrial complex, all kinds of things. So I think that for me was probably the most impactful part of it, was just, oh, wow, you're getting to everything.
Yeah.
Like absolutely everything. And so I feel like there's a little bit of something for everyone, you know, even if someone's not particularly interested in one aspect of the film, there's going to be something else coming up that's going to pique their interest, that's going to light their brain up.
Yeah. I loved how they equated like the hip hop community to the tellers of truth.
Oh, it was so great.
Of the day, you know, like that you don't hear this stuff on mainstream media. The news people aren't talking about it, but the hip hop people and rappers are talking about it.
Yeah.
You just have to listen. They're telling you what's really going down.
Absolutely.
You know? So I would give this film a thumbs up for sure.
Big thumbs up from me.
Yeah. It is available for free on Tubi, which you can either go to the Tubi website and watch it, or if you have a smart TV, you can download the Tubi app and watch it. There are ads with Tubi. Yeah, for free, it is available on Tubi. It's available on the Roku channel if you have Roku. If you have a subscription on YouTube TV, you can watch it on YouTube TV. I think you can rent it on YouTube TV. It's available for free on Sling and Fubo TV with a subscription. So there's a number of ways that you can watch this if you want to watch this film.
And I highly recommend that you do.
Yeah, I recommend people watch it. And like I said, I think it's a great film to share with people, especially if you have people in your family maybe that are into the hip hop community, you know, because there is a lot of people in the hip hop music world involved in this film. Also, hey, if anybody in your family is a Billie Eilish fan, she's one of the executive producers, and she does do a number of interviews.
Yeah, she makes a couple of appearances.
Yeah, Billie Eilish is herself vegan. So I think, like Sam said, it's kind of accessible, and it's got a little bit of everything for everyone in there. So thumbs up. So with that, we will just move on. It's time for this week's assignment, Restaurant SOS.
This week, listener Emily A. nominated Nirvana Tea House and Cafe, located at 969 Main Street, Unit 2 in Millis, Massachusetts. They are open from 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. on Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. They are closed on Mondays. And they serve vegan brunch every weekend.
That's where I would be, at the vegan brunch, for sure.
This is your place to meet friends, relax a bit, and enjoy the colors, flavors, and moments of life. You can explore their thoughtfully curated tea selection and enjoy their globally inspired plant-based menu. Make yourself at home and enjoy friendly hospitality. At Nirvana, you are always treated like an old friend because we hope you become one.
And now let's take a look at their menu.
Okay, just the picture at the header. Oh my gosh.
It's a beautiful website.
Wow. I'm just kind of bowled over by how beautiful this looks.
Yeah, the photography on their website is fantastic. The food looks fresh and bright and colorful. Let's just start with their starters. Shareable starters. They have a Mediterranean platter.
So the Mediterranean platter is toasted pita bread or gluten-free corn chips, if you need, cucumber slices, cherry tomatoes, and carrot sticks, and then you can choose 3, 4, or all 5 of their dips and sides, which include eggplant sauté, hummus, baba ganoush, Kalamata olives, and garlic tzatziki.
That sounds good. I would get that as a starter.
Oh, absolutely.
They have chivda, which is an Indian snack mix of seasoned garbanzo beans, chickpea noodle sticks, peppered green peas, and crunchy rice maruku.
Yum. Now, for entrees, oh my gosh, these bowls sound absolutely amazing. So, for example, the Bhutani bowl, this is organic Bhutanese red rice, sautéed sweet potato, cherry tomatoes, green onion, cucumbers, purple cabbage, golden raisins, sliced almonds, baby spinach, radishes, and our almost famous tahini dressing.
This is amazing. Kamala masala. With a nod to historic glass ceiling shattering moments, this is an Indian-inspired dish of organic white rice, chickpeas, arugula, radish, harissa, traditional masala spices, mango chutney, coconut curry dressing served with pita bread or a gluten-free corn chip.
Gotta say, I would be all about that. Because coconut curry, I'm in.
The Kamala masala.
I love it. They also have beautiful looking salads, wraps, and soups. They do a seasonal soup served daily, so that's going to change on a regular basis. They also do a seasonal salad that may change, but they also have some really, really interesting wraps like the Kathmandu carrot wrap. So this is a whole wheat or gluten-free wrap, hummus, sautéed carrots, arugula, red onion, sprouts, cherry tomatoes, and harissa with a side of dressed mixed greens. So again, it just sounds like really wonderful, fresh food.
I'm loving it, and I'm a little jealous of Emily that she's close enough to go to this place because
seriously,
the brunch menu sounds fantastic. They have a Tiger's Den tofu scramble, banana malpua pancakes, chocolate chip pancakes. Come on. I want to go.
Well, but not only this, the cheerful chocolate chip pancakes are cardamom-infused banana chocolate chip pancakes. Yep. Topped with strawberries, sliced almonds, and house-made cashew cream.
Yeah.
And then you can have either traditional or spiced maple syrup.
Come on.
I need these pancakes in my life. Like, oh my God. I'm not the biggest pancake person, but these sound extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah. Their tofu scramble sounds extraordinary, what they call their Tiger's Den tofu. It's seasoned organic tofu with cherry tomatoes, baby spinach, and broccoli florets with a side of grilled sourdough.
Yep, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's what I would get. I would get that. And they have home fries. So,
hey,
you can't go wrong with a home fry.
You really can't.
Definitely. If you are in the Millis, Massachusetts area, please hit up Nirvana Tea House and Cafe and take advantage of all of this beautiful, fresh food on their menu. It is amazing. And like I said, Emily, I'm a little jealous. Sorry, but I am. If you have a favorite vegan restaurant you would like us to shout out for our Restaurant SOS series, don't hesitate to, drop us an email, text us using the text link in our show notes, or DM us on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll add them to the list. And now it's time for our favorite portion of the show.
Must be listener shout out time.
It's listener shout out.
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
This week's shout out goes to Shirley Demiersman. We don't know much about Shirley.
We don't.
But she messaged us through Spotify to get our banana bread recipe.
She did.
Hey, Shirley, we still need your email.
She does. She does need to send her email in order to get that recipe.
So, Shirley, drop us a line at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com so we can send you the recipe along with your swag bag.
Yeah, thanks for listening, Shirley, and thanks for sending us a text. We do want to send you that swag bag. So send us your email, send us your t-shirt size and address so we can send you a CNC swag bag, and I'll also send that banana bread recipe along.
And for the rest of you out there, if you want a listener shout out, please text, email, or DM us. Let us know what you think of the show and tell us a little bit about yourself. You can also nominate someone you love for a shout out.
And I wanted to thank everybody that did text along bananas to get that banana bread recipe. A number of you did. So I hope you're enjoying the banana bread recipe. And if you make it, don't forget to share a picture on your socials and tag us so that we can see how it came out for you.
Also, don't forget that a shout-out enters you into our Meeson Chef Knife giveaway later this year.
Yeah, we'll be doing that soon, probably.
Yeah, it's got to be coming up.
Yeah, over the next couple of months, for sure. And, I forgot to mention that today is our 3-year podcast anniversary.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. The first episode of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast was released on September 23rd, 2021.
It was. 3 years. I can't believe it.
Crazy.
It's gone so quickly.
Last night you were thinking it was 4. I had to do episode math for you.
Math wasn't mathing. That brings us to our Vegan Org of the Week. And this week's Vegan Org of the Week is Last Chance for Animals.
Last Chance for Animals, or LCA, is an international nonprofit organization dedicated to eliminating animal exploitation through education, investigations, legislation, and media attention. LCA believes that animals are highly sentient creatures who exist for their own reasons, independent of their service to humans. They should not be made to suffer for the latter. LCA opposes the use of animals in food and clothing production, scientific experimentation, and entertainment, and promotes a cruelty-free lifestyle and the ascription of rights to non-human beings. If you'd like to learn more about their work, you can visit their website at lcanimal.org.
Another brilliant organization.
Indeed.
Doing the work. It's time to wrap this baby up.
Wrap it up.
We are over an hour. I want to know if you think our episodes are too long or if you don't mind the longer format. Would you prefer our episodes be more in the 30 to 40 minute range? Or are you okay if it's an hour? Let us know. Because I always feel like it's a little too long. But I don't know, maybe you like it long. Who knows?
Well, I mean, for me personally, anytime we're driving somewhere, I feel like we're driving somewhere an hour away.
Yeah.
So I personally don't mind the hour format because I'm always listening to the podcast when we are driving somewhere.
Yeah, and podcasts that I listen to, not ours, I actually do like the longer form, but some people might not. So let us know if you think our episodes should be shorter, because I just need your input.
Okay, then.
Also, send us your favorite vegan recipes so we can make them. And we'll let you know how they turn out, and we'll talk about them on the show. Please join the Agriculture Fairness Alliance's Vegan Voter Hub. We always put the link in the show notes. So click that link and join the Voter Hub. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to our YouTube. And if you can, leave us a review.
And with that, it's time to sign off. You have just listened to episode 158 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, and there's nothing left to say but where cukes and compassion are always the fashion. On the podcast.
Thanks, James.
Have a great week, everyone.
We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We love you.
We do. Bye-bye.
The end.
If you'd like to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, well, you can do that by hopping on over to our Patreon page and becoming a patron. We have all the recipes from our Vegan Kitchen series up there, and we'll be adding some patron-only episodes in the near future. So thank you for supporting us at whatever level that you choose, and thank you again for listening to Compassion and Cucumbers podcast.